The story opens in the middle of a debutante ball, already loud, shiny, and full of pressure. A confident noblewoman is giving the usual pep talk to the young ladies, telling them not to be nervous. All they have to do, she says, is take the hand of the partner she prepared for them and walk through the door. Easy, right? Then she flips through her list and calls the first name, May Avril. She's the eldest daughter of Count Avril and our actual main protagonist of this story. The noblewoman tells May to stand in front because she plans to introduce her first, and then immediately acts like May doesn't exist. She skips over her without a pause and moves on to the next girl. Of course, the other noble ladies notice, and so they start whispering. They call May the problem child of the Avril family, the one who couldn't even debut until she was 23. Someone snickers that this ball was supposed to be her younger sister's turn, which must mean May showed up out of jealousy because her sister is famously beautiful. May hears every word. She clenches her teeth and forces herself to breathe. Inside, she's already done with all of them. Seriously, why are they acting like this when they're all stuck in the same situation? In the end, they're no different from her. They're all extras. Yes, extras. Because May Avril isn't a heroine, a villainess, or someone blessed by fate. She's a background character in other people's romance fantasy stories, the kind that never gets chosen, never gets lucky, and never gets a shiny turning point. And she knows this for a reason most people don't. May can see titles floating above people's heads. She's seen them since birth, letters hovering above others like invisible labels. For the longest time, she didn't know what they meant. That changed about a year ago, when her master explained the truth. In this world, everything is decided from the moment you're born. Status, wealth, class, and above all, whether you're a main character or an extra. Because this is a romance fantasy world. That realization completely wrecked May's worldview. She used to believe that if she lived kindly, good things would come back to her. Wrong. Kindness belongs to heroines, like the girl who feeds a beggar and accidentally helps a hidden prince. So what about hard work? Surely that would pay off, right? Nope. May even tried selling flowers on the street, thinking effort might finally matter. But she got crushed by another heroine whose business magically took off because, surprise, she was the protagonist of a story called, In This Life, I'm a First-Generation Chaebol. Opportunity, it turns out, also belongs to the main characters. Which brings us back to the ball. A debutante ball is basically a turf for romance fantasy heroines. No crumbs fall here for someone like May. She wasn't a transmigrated, regressed, or reincarnated character. And yet she came anyway, for a reason. That's when April Avril appears. April is May's younger sister, the second daughter of Count Avril, and she looks every bit like an angel. She rushes over, full of concern, worried about May after all those nasty whispers. But the moment she hugs May, her tone shifts, sharply. She asks why May even bothered coming. A bug like her should know her place instead of embarrassing the family. May plays along, smiling sweetly. She adjusts April's ribbon and casually tells her it's crooked. Then, while fixing it, she whispers back that she came to ruin April's debutante ball. And really, April is the one who doesn't know her place. Because May knows the truth. The April standing in front of her isn't her real sister anymore. She's Seol Eun-chae, a possessor who stole her beloved sister's body. April snaps back in anger, calling May an extra and starting to say more, but they're interrupted. The noblewoman in charge finally calls May's name. May turns, smiles brightly at April, and makes a quiet vow. An extra like her, who supposedly doesn't know her place, is going to take everything from her. And with that, she steps into the party. Now, did things magically improve? Not really. Once the ball is in full swing, May ends up standing off to the side while April becomes the center of attention, surrounded by people. But May isn't panicking. She already planned for this. Her plan B. Right at midnight, the doors swing open. The entire room buzzes as a tall, handsome man walks in. Then, to everyone's shock, he goes straight to May and asks her for a dance. He's Duke Cedric Richelstan, the Duke of the North, and the kind of man who never shows up to balls. People whisper like crazy. Why is he here? And why is he dancing with her? Some scoff that May isn't even pretty or famous. But May just smiles, because her tactic worked perfectly. She doesn't have a heroine's spark that pulls attention naturally. So instead, she borrowed a hero's blazing halo. And now that everyone's eyes are on her, April is definitely not pleased. But beating April's pride was never May's true goal. When May spots a familiar figure nearby, she politely thanks Duke Cedric for the dance. He brushes it off, saying he only came because of his sister's request. May smiles and tells him to pass her thanks to her master. She has something important to take care of. She then scans the room and follows a man heading toward the balcony. From the beginning, the debutante ball was just an excuse. This man was the real reason she came. Two men on the balcony look surprised when May suddenly approaches. As she steps closer, she remembers what her master once told her. In a romance fantasy world built around a heroine, there's only one way to drive out a possessor. And that's exactly why May introduces herself to this man in disguise. Because he is the son of their empire, Emperor Riham Elefton, the tyrant of the El Rash Empire and the male lead of Seol Yoonche's story. For an extra like May, there's only one way to reclaim her sister. She has to seduce the possessed heroine's male lead. There are usually 3 classic ways to win over a tyrant in a romance fantasy story: regression, reincarnation, and transmigration. The usual cheat codes, but May has none of those. She's just a normal 23-year-old young lady. No second life, no system whispering tips in her ear, and just a pure-blooded extra. So when you're stuck like that, there's only one desperate option left. A secret technique nobody brags about, but everyone in romance fantasy knows. The legendary 3 combo. When May finally looks up and sees the Emperor's face, she does pause for half a second. Yeah, he's handsome. But this is not the time to fall in love. She has priorities. So she steels herself, throws dignity out the window, and commits fully to acting like a complete lunatic. Step 1 of the combo, the kiss. She grabs Riham by the coat and locks lips with him out of nowhere. His eyes twitch instantly. That's not a good sign, but May doesn't stop there. Step 2, the slap. She pulls back and swings for his cheek like she practiced 100 times in front of her mirror. Except this time, she doesn't even finish the motion because the Emperor catches her wrist midair and starts asking what the hell she thinks she's doing. Which leads us to the grand finale and the most unhinged part. May grabs a wine bottle, raises it like she's about to perform a forbidden ritual, and yells something about ashes, blood seals, and him never forgetting her for the rest of his life. All of this is supposedly for first impression purposes. Unfortunately for her, Riham dodges the bottle effortlessly and knocks her out with a clean strike to the back of the head. The next thing May knows, she's on the floor, unconscious, while the Emperor calmly orders his knight to throw her in prison. Later that day, Riham is soaking in his bath, replaying the whole mess in his head. Ladies throwing themselves at him isn't new. Slaps aren't new either. He's dealt with both plenty of times. But the wine bottle? That part was new. That's when his loyal knight, Gale Dacre, walks in to report on the background check Riham requested. Gale freezes mid-step when he notices dead assassins on the floor and immediately apologizes, saying it was his failure. Riham waves it off. That sort of thing happens more often than people think. What he actually cares about is May Avril. Gale hands over the report, and Riham flips through it. The more he reads, the more suspicious it feels. Her background is too spotless. No hidden connections, no strange history, and not even a tiny red flag. It's almost impressive. Which makes him wonder if she prepared this in advance, or if she really is just an ordinary noble lady who lost her mind for one night. Either way, there's only one way to find out. He decides to question her himself. Meanwhile, May's night has gone completely downhill. She's stuck in a cold prison cell, rats casually treating the place like their personal hangout spot, while she lies there thinking about how unfair romance fantasy logic really is. Other female leads open their eyes in silk beds under fancy ceilings after possessing someone's body. But May opens her eyes to a sword pressed against her neck. Instant bad ending vibes. The Emperor looks down at her with a lazy smirk and says her name like he's already bored. He reminds her that attempting to assassinate the Emperor is a crime, and even trying is enough to get her executed on the spot. May, who is now shaking like a scared puppy caught stealing food, can barely breathe. And the worst part? Yesterday's madness wasn't even her real personality. That whole kiss-slap-bottle routine was something she practiced over and over in front of a mirror. Her actual nature is a total coward. The Emperor tilts his sword slightly, letting the tip brush against her neck, and casually wonders out loud what he should do with someone who acts like an assassin one day and a well-mannered noble lady the next. That tiny movement is enough to send May into full panic mode. He could really kill her. Inside her head, she's already pulling her hair out. Still, she forces herself to move. She tells herself she can do this again. For April. For her one and only younger sister. With trembling hands, May pushes the sword away and blurts out that if he kills her, he'll regret it for the rest of his life. That finally gets his attention. Riham asks, still smiling coldly, what possible basis she has to say something like that. May swallows hard but straightens her back and claims she's a special person. Someone who can give him exactly what he needs most. He allows her to continue, but the warning is clear. If she's spouting nonsense, she dies right there. May gulps, then speaks. Pull out the weeds, sow the seeds. Only a wise woman can unravel the secret of the red stone. Even Gale stiffens in shock. Those words are taken straight from the secret will of the late ruler. In truth, this part is fairly simple. The weeds refer to the corrupt ministers. The seeds represent the loyal subjects. The wise woman is the empress, and the red stone points to the flame knights, the secret knight order that once answered directly to the late Empress Agnes. Put it all together, and the meaning is clear. Only after removing corrupt nobles, gathering loyal allies, and standing beside a proper empress can Riham gain control of the Flame Knights. And for an emperor whose power base has been unstable since his mother's sudden death, that kind of power is priceless. Then May does something even crazier than last night. She stakes her family's future and makes a direct proposal to the Tyrant Emperor. She promises to place the Flame Knights into his hands. In exchange, she asks for just one thing, that he accept her as his fiancée. And yes, the third step of the Romance Fantasy 3 combo was never about knocking out the male lead with a wine bottle. It was always about a fake engagement or fake marriage. Riham stares straight at her and asks if she really thinks she can bargain with him right now. The look alone is enough to make most people crumble, so May rushes to explain before he decides she's crossed the final line. She quickly says he's got it wrong. She's not trying to become his empress. Not at all. All she wants is to be his fiancé for a short time, just borrowing the position, temporarily. Riham scoffs. He points out how small and insignificant her family is, and asks if she really thinks he is desperate enough to cling to the promise of someone like her. May swallows her fear and goes all in. She offers assets, her father's seal, and the land deeds of the Avril family. Then she raises the stakes even higher. If Riham announces their engagement, she promises that within 3 days she'll remove every traitor gnawing at his power base. And if she fails, he can annul the engagement, seize her family's wealth, and if he feels like it, even take her life. She's betting everything she has. All that's left is for Riham to decide. After a moment, the Emperor smiles and says that May Avril is interesting. And just like that, the Empire explodes with rumors. The official announcement goes out that the Emperor is engaged to May Avril, and people lose their minds. No one can believe it. That ugly, ill-tempered noble lady. Some assume there must be a deal behind it. Others complain that if the Emperor was going to marry into the Avril family, he should have chosen the second daughter instead. The angelic one. Meanwhile, May herself is protesting like an angry squirrel. She storms in, demanding to know why Riham announced a marriage without even holding an engagement ceremony. She says this is a breach of contract. Riham calmly reminds her that an engagement ceremony was never part of their deal, which is unfortunately true. Still, May refuses to back down. If not a ceremony, then at least a royal banquet, and it has to happen within 3 days. Riham comments that for someone who was supposed to die a few days ago, she's being surprisingly demanding. May sulks and says holding one banquet isn't even difficult. He replies that he can't organize one just for her, but if she really wants to attend a ball, he can arrange that instead. That instantly cheers her up. His solution is simple. He'll ask his godmother, Marchioness Sarah Selagarden, a powerful figure in high society, and an old friend of his mother. Conveniently, the Marchioness is hosting a masquerade ball that very night. Riham does have one condition, though. He leans in close to say it, which makes May's face heat up. Whatever that condition is, it'll become clear later. When the night of the masquerade arrives, May appears in a light yellow dress, looking stunning, but very nervous. The ballroom is packed, and Riham reminds her of his instructions. She must never reveal her identity, protect her mask at all costs, and if anyone asks who she is, she'll introduce herself as Alicia March, the Marchioness's niece. Then she realizes how difficult this night is going to be. Reham intentionally spread a rumor that his fiancée would be attending the ball. Now everyone is hunting for May Avril, while May herself has to hide who she really is. She laughs awkwardly, not understanding why he'd do that. Reham lightly pats her head and tells her not to overthink it, just consider it a test. But his mood shifts the moment he spots something off. Then, he says he'll explain later, gently takes her hand and tells her to go inside first without him. May blushes and asks what about him. Reham instantly switches back to his cold tone, asking why it sounds like he needs her permission. That alone sends May into panic mode. She bolts inside, shouting that she'll see him later. The moment she's gone, Reham and Gale are surrounded by assassins. Turns out several guests came to the party with one goal: killing May Avril. Maybe this is why there was no engagement ceremony after all. Back inside the ballroom, May has just finished chatting with Lady Rosalind. The second the lady turns away, May pulls out a small notebook and starts scribbling notes. It's exhausting work. Everyone is wearing masks, so she has to approach people one by one just to figure out who's who. Then suddenly a hand reaches from behind her. Reham snatches the notebook. May nearly jumps out of her skin as he teasingly asks what she's been writing so seriously. While her heart is still racing, Reham flips through the pages, unimpressed. He calls it useless and says he doesn't get why she's doing all this. But this is exactly her plan. May calmly tells him she's done her part. Now it's his turn. The names written in that notebook are the weeds they talked about earlier. Every noble slowly eating away at the empire from the inside, or the hidden traitors. And this was the real reason why she insisted on coming to the ball. Because earlier that night, May used her unique ability to check the titles floating above each noble lady's head. One by one, she identified everyone connected to villain roles. What Reham's holding now is a complete list of enemies. And May found them all in a single night. As expected of a tyrant emperor, Reham doesn't hesitate for even a second. Every noble whose name appears on May's list is immediately thrown into prison. The problem is, none of them have official charges yet. That doesn't sit well with the Prime Minister at all. He confronts Reham and questions how the Emperor can lock up so many nobles without solid proof. Reham doesn't even blink and says they're all corrupt officials slowly chewing through the Empire from the inside, exactly as written in his mother's secret will. The Prime Minister pushes back and asks if Reham is being misled by someone. That's when Reham's tone sharpens. He asks if the Prime Minister is trying to insult his adorable fiancée, the future Empress of the Empire. That shuts the room up for a moment, but the man doesn't stop there. He argues that nearly half of those arrested are meritorious nobles who helped Empress Agnes, Reham's mother, rise to power. He adds that the late Empress would never approve of what's happening now. The Prime Minister turns to leave, but before he can fully walk away, Reham drops one last line. He says he's not so sure whether it's his mother who wouldn't welcome this, or the Prime Minister himself who doesn't welcome Reham's reign. The man leaves without replying, but the tension lingers thick in the room. Left alone, Reham lets out a quiet sigh and opens a drawer. Inside is the seal May handed him before. Just looking at it lifts his mood. While that's happening, May is trapped inside a dream she wishes she could forget. 10 years ago, her mother was murdered by bandits. April, only 8 years old at the time, was the sole witness. The shock was so severe that April lost her ability to speak. That night, during their mother's funeral, May saw her little sister holding back sobs, unable to cry out loud. That was the moment May decided she would protect April no matter what. All she wanted was her sister's happiness. She wanted to hear her laugh again, from the bottom of her heart. Years later, when April finally called May's name again, it should have been a miracle. Instead, that was the day May realized the person in her sister's body was no longer the real April. May jolts awake from the dream, her chest tight. Before she can even calm herself, a maid rushes in and excitedly tells her to hurry. The Emperor has summoned her to the palace. Now she understands why. Outside, countless nobles are gathered, protesting loudly. They demand the release of the imprisoned nobles, insisting they're innocent. Standing there, May finally realizes something she tried to ignore. Using her ability alone isn't enough. Her face pales, and Reham subtly shifts his position to block her view of the angry crowd. May doesn't quite understand the gesture, and for a split second, She even wonders why this feels like something a romance fantasy, or rom-fan, heroine would experience. Since when did things turn this way? Riham admits the situation is bad. The officials May identified are so clean that the more he investigates, the less evidence he finds. Most of them are founding nobles of the empire, powerful people who can't be locked up forever without proper charges. What he needs now is a believable justification. So he asks May how she chose them. Panic hits instantly. How is she supposed to explain her ability? In the end, she dodges the question, mumbling that it's her secret. Even famous restaurants don't share their recipes, she says. Some things stay hidden, even from family. Then she quickly moves away and sits down, reminding him that she gave him a deadline. She asks him to trust her just a little longer. Riham studies her for a moment, then agrees. Waiting a few more days isn't a big deal. Still, he reminds her of what's at stake if she fails. May starts shaking so badly she barely looks like the same person in this scene. Just when the tension settles, the head butler enters with news. Lady Emma of House Lindsay is requesting an audience. Riham raises an eyebrow. Count Lindsay is one of the nobles currently imprisoned. He sarcastically asks since when the emperor became a stray dog that comes running when called. The butler quickly clarifies, the request isn't for the emperor. Lady Emma wants to see May. Then the butler repeats Emma's exact words. I want to see the bug in the rom-fan world. Now sitting face to face with Emma, May finally understands what that earlier insult meant. When the butler called her a bug of the romance fantasy world, it wasn't just trash talk. That wording gives it away. Emma is a possessor too. Just then, Emma said she came here because April advised her to, which means, once again, the fake sister is pulling strings from behind the curtain. Of course she is. Emma doesn't bother easing into the conversation. She straight up tells May that April said if she came to see her, everything would be solved. Then she adds that May should just step aside already. This isn't a stage where a side character like May gets to interfere. That one hits hard. May keeps smiling on the outside, calm and polite, but inside she's absolutely losing it. Because sure, she might look like a harmless noble lady, but mentally, she's trained for this kind of fight. And now that she's irritated, that switch flips on by itself. So May starts simple. She politely asks the lady's name. Emma answers with a smug little smile. Emma Lindsay, the youngest daughter of Count Lindsay, currently imprisoned without charges because of May's influence. The tone makes it obvious she's used to getting her way. May shuts that down immediately. She says she doesn't want that name. She wants Emma's real name. And then she asks, very calmly, if Emma doesn't even remember it anymore. But Emma stays silent. May doesn't let it go. She asks how long it's been since Emma possessed this body. Long enough to forget who she originally was. That's when Emma finally snaps back, calling May more impudent than expected. She asks if May is acting so bold because she trusts her special ability that much. Then Emma leans in close and whispers her advice. In a world made for protagonists, no matter how much noise an extra like May makes with petty tricks, she'll never win. May doesn't even blink. She points out that if Emma truly believed that, she wouldn't be here right now. And right on cue, the door bursts open. Gale rushes in with the news they've been waiting for. He's found the evidence. May immediately goes through the documents, flipping pages faster and faster. Gale explains that the trial preparations are already underway. The papers detail everything. Spies planted inside the Imperial Palace. Tax embezzlement. Secret ties to assassin guilds. It's all there. The entire mess will be settled within a week. Emma starts sweating. She asks if May really thinks this will change anything. May steps closer, looks her straight in the eye, and promises that it will. She tells her they'll meet again in court. Then she calls her fake Emma. Fast forward to the day of the trial. Count Lindsay is sentenced to death. His first and second sons receive life imprisonment for their involvement. Every member of the Lindsay household is stripped of their titles, and all their assets are confiscated. The fake Emma screams that it's all a conspiracy. That's when May appears behind her, and calmly asks if she still thinks this world revolves around her. From the way she talks, it's obvious she feels no remorse at all. Emma snaps back, calling May a witch. She accuses her of scheming everything, saying this isn't how her story was supposed to go. None of this should have happened, and it's all May's fault. She lunges. Before she can even touch May, Riem is already there. He pulls May into his arms and moves her out of reach without hesitation. Then he turns to Emma on the floor and asks why she tried to attack his fiancée. Emma insists she's innocent. She says her family devoted everything to the Empire. But Riem cuts her off. That's not what he asked. He demands to know why she attacked May, the woman who will become the Empire's empress. Not only did Emma try to hurt May, she also insulted her in front of him, which, in his eyes, is the same as insulting the Emperor himself. That's the end of it. Emma is dragged away, screaming and pleading. But something strange happens. As May watches, the title floating above Emma's head starts to blur. At first, May thinks it's just her eyesight. Maybe the distance. She even rubs one eye to be sure. Then Emma collapses. And in that exact moment, May realizes the truth. The story title above Emma's head is gone. Completely gone. After that, Riem and May end up sitting across from the Prime Minister, and the mood immediately shifts into something heavy and serious. The Prime Minister gets straight to the point. Regarding the 56 high-ranking officials the Emperor ordered to be investigated, he confirms that every single one of them was involved in serious corruption. Executions, asset seizures, title revocations, all of it has already been carried out based on how severe each crime was. He slides the documents forward and tells Riem to review the details at his convenience. Then he moves on to public reaction. According to him, the response depends on social class. The nobles are terrified. The common people are celebrating in the streets. For a moment, Riem and May both light up. That reaction alone feels like proof that everything they did was worth it. But the Prime Minister doesn't let that moment last. He says that's only the situation right now, before the real consequences start showing up. Once the administrative gap hits, things won't be so simple anymore. He starts firing off scenarios one after another. What happens if the central grain belt gets flooded and grain supplies fall short? What if the Western nobles, already proud and restless, decide to rebel? What if pirates on the eastern coast begin kidnapping citizens and holding them hostage? And what if all of that happens at the same time, crashing down like a storm? Then he asks Riem directly if he still thinks the people will stand behind him when that happens. The pressure in the room spikes so fast that May's face starts wobbling again, her own face going blurry from how tense she is. Riem scoffs and says it sounds like the Prime Minister is scolding him for not pretending he never saw the nobles' crimes. The Prime Minister calmly replies that a ruler has to think about even the smallest details while chasing big goals. From his point of view, stripping all those nobles of power without preparing successors was reckless. And Riem, not missing a beat, takes that as proof that the Prime Minister's support base has collapsed and that the man is holding a personal grudge against him. The atmosphere is seconds away from exploding. That's when May steps in. She raises her hand and admits there's something the Prime Minister doesn't know yet. She explains that it was meant to stay a strategic secret, which is why neither she nor Riem shared it earlier. But the truth is, they already have countermeasures in place. All she asks is for time. The Prime Minister presses her, asking how much time and demands a clear deadline. May answers and says she'll deliver results within 1 week, and that after that, it won't be too late for the Prime Minister to judge everything. Later out in the garden, May's legs finally give out. The moment she's alone, she admits it to herself through shaky breaths. She walked straight into the Prime Minister's trap. Her mind spirals as she compares reality to how things should have gone in a romance fantasy. This was supposed to be the part where the male lead leans close to her in a carriage, or catches her by the waist as she falls, or saves her from drowning in some dramatic rescue. Instead, from the first day she met Riem, all she's done is work herself to the bone. No swooning, no heart-racing moments, just paperwork and survival. Still, May forces herself to breathe and pull it together. She tells herself not to get discouraged. If the plan isn't working, then she'll change it. She'll rush through the second mission, and once that's done, she'll go all in on the romance route for the third one. Besides, this mission doesn't sound that hard. At least, that's what she believes at the time. She remembers something her master once told her. When looking for capable protagonists, don't overthink it. Just check the keywords in the title. Powerful women are often hidden in the worst places, like how pearls are buried in mud. Among all the flashy labels like capable, arrogant, scheming, and genius, the real jackpot is always the same: a villainess who has regressed. With that in mind, May Avril moves fast and seeks out the undisputed queen of villainesses, Marchioness Olivia Cruz. May starts things off politely, complimenting the tea and saying it has a really lovely aroma. It's the safest opening she can think of. Olivia, however, shuts that down fast. With a calm smile and an icy tone, she says that compared to the tea leaves supplied to the Imperial Palace, this one is barely good enough to keep up appearances. Olivia is smiling. Yes, but it's the kind of smile that keeps people at arm's length. So May decides there's no point dancing around it anymore. She explains why she's really here. May admits that she spent almost her entire life in the Avril territory, and it hasn't been long since she arrived in the capital. High society here is a battlefield, and she knows she can't stand alone. What she needs are people who will firmly stand on her side, and she wants to build that kind of support together with the Jasmine Club. The Jasmine Club is Olivia's tea party circle. Every woman in it shares a similar fate. They're women cast aside by their families, whispered about behind closed doors, and crushed by cruel rumors. After turning back time, Olivia worked tirelessly to gather women who lived through the same kind of darkness she did. What Olivia doesn't know is that half of the Jasmine Club members are just like her in another way too. Women who, like her, had returned and played villainous roles in their own stories. That's exactly why May is here. She needs to bring these villainesses together and support them. But to do that, she has to win over Olivia first. Olivia listens quietly, then says she'll give her answer, but only after asking May something first. She starts listing names. Lady Maria, one of their key members, was taken by the city guard half a year ago for attempting to kill her younger sister. Lady Dorothy committed arson on her family estate and was kicked out of her house. Their spiritual anchor, Countess Beauvalet, is endlessly followed by rumors that she bathes in the blood of young maids to preserve her beauty. Then Olivia turns the spotlight on herself. She says she was born while severing her mother's lifeline. She grew up watching her half-sisters drop dead one by one. After marriage, she lost her husband as well. Because of that, people openly call her the tragic Marchioness, or the Witch of Death, not even behind her back, right to her face. Olivia calmly points out that many members of the Jasmine Club carry reputations like these. Not exactly the type of people one would expect the Emperor's fiancé to associate with. So she asks the real question. What is May's true reason for wanting to join them? At this point, May looks like a helpless puppy, trapped and outmatched. And honestly, she expected this. Olivia is known as one of the sharpest minds in the rom-fan world, and that's exactly what makes her so hard to deal with. But it's fine. May remembers her master's lessons. She was taught never to face villainesses head-on. Their schemes will always fly way beyond her expectations. Instead, she has to take a gentler route, target their weak spots. She has to become their spring. So May starts acting. She says their reputations don't trouble her at all. She says she can see it clearly. The gentle hearts beneath all that cruelty and rumor. Sparkles appear, and tears well up. This is the moment she decides to unleash lines so sweet they should make Olivia cringe. She praises Olivia and her friends, saying that inside them rests a heart more tender and lovely than anyone else's, and that no amount of envy or slander from foolish, greedy people could ever shake their resolve. May is fully committed to the performance. Unfortunately, it backfires. Olivia's expression only grows more grim. Without raising her voice, she smoothly excuses herself, saying she has something urgent to attend to. And just like that, she leaves, abandoning May in the room. May is left stunned. She can't understand why her master's tried and tested cringe persuasion didn't work this time. In the end, all she can do is stand there, on the verge of tears, like a puppy left out in the rain, completely rejected. Back at the Imperial Palace, May can only let out a long sigh. This is the first time her master's strategy has completely failed, and to make things worse, she can't even ask for help right now. Still, she forces herself to look on the bright side. There are 6 full days left. It's not over yet. That's when she spots April talking to another lady in the palace halls late at night. "Why is April here?" May walks over and asks what brought her to the Imperial Palace. But instead of answering properly, April tells her to relax her face and greet her beloved sister with a smile. May grabs April by the shoulder and coldly says thanks for the early advice, but that's something the real April can handle just fine. And once her real sister comes back, this fake standing in front of her won't need to worry about anything anymore. April just smiles. Then she casually slaps May's hand away and says she thought maybe May would feel guilty about something by now. She goes on to say she finally understands why May insisted they debut together back then. It wasn't to sabotage her debut, something April didn't realize at the time. It was because May was aiming for the first meeting with the Tyrant, an event that was originally meant for April. Fake April calls May greedy for wanting her man, and says that's what makes May a truly wicked older sister. May tells her to stop playing word games. She says she's never hidden her real goal. All she wants is to drive the possessor's soul out of her sister's body. But that only makes the fake April laugh. She comments on how touching their sisterly bond is, then drops another insult. After all of May's struggles, everything has gone right back to where it belongs. The reason she's at the palace tonight is simple. She's now the Emperor's dance practice partner, meaning they'll be seeing each other a lot more from now on. Then she says it in a calm, chilling tone. It's as if the world itself is whispering to her, telling Seol Eunchai to reclaim the male lead who was taken from her. He was hers from the beginning, and the world agrees. And the worst part is, May feels it too. She feels lost. Her master is unreachable, the villainess is still out of reach, and now her fake sister has decided to plant herself right in the middle of everything. One problem after another, all lining up neatly to ruin her plan. Seol Eunchai keeps going. She tells May not to feel too discouraged, because this is just how things work in romance fantasy. That world always revolves around the protagonist. Extras like May don't get love, don't get hope, and don't even get to hold on to something as insignificant as her sister's body. That's when May completely loses it. Hearing her sister's body called insignificant is the final straw. May raises her hand, ready to slap her, but the fake April catches her wrist. With a smirk, she says she'll kindly educate May since she seems unfamiliar with current trends. These days, romance fantasy heroines are strong. And she's not done acting yet. She notices someone familiar behind them. So when May finally breaks free, Seol Eunchai grabs her hand again and uses it to slap her own cheek. Anyone watching would think May just struck her sister. Just then, Riem steps in from behind, his voice sharp as he demands to know what's going on. What a perfect timing. Looking back, May stutters as she tries to explain herself to Riem. The words barely make it out before fake April suddenly raises her voice and cries that everything is just a misunderstanding. With perfectly timed tears, she says May was only trying to guide her and help her walk the right path. Riem shuts that down fast. He says April has a habit of speaking in ways that blur her real intentions, and reminds her that he only asked for an explanation, nothing more. April then claims that she and May simply had a small conflict. When Riem asks if she's saying May raised her hand over a sisterly argument, May steps forward herself. Her hands are shaking as she reaches for Riem's arm, trying to explain. But Riem pauses and looks at her closely. He comments that May doesn't look well today, and gently suggests she go inside first. She tries to protest, but her trembling hands betray her. In the end, Riem tells Gale to escort her back to her room, adding that he wants her to think about how worried he is for her, his beloved fiancée. From May's point of view, though, Riem looks like someone who has already decided not to hear her out. Walking beside Gale, her thoughts spiral. She understands his position. She really does. Anything she says right now would sound like an excuse. In a situation like this, of course he'd trust her sister more than her. So why does it feel like she's about to cry? Back where Riem stands, he casually points out that April's cheek is badly swollen. If May had been wearing a ring, he says, it would have left a serious mark. April keeps up her innocent act, saying this kind of thing isn't new between her and her sister. She even tells Riem to hurry after May, adding that May is sensitive but not a bad person. Riem scoffs. Then he looks straight at April and tells her she must take him for a fool. He says the only younger sister of his fiancée is greedy, vile, and stupid. As a trained swordsman, he explains, he knows how to read people's movements, and the reason he sent May away wasn't because he believed April's lies. It was to stop May from being forced to defend April in front of him. April's eyes dart around the place. This isn't how it was supposed to go. The Prime Minister, who witnessed everything, quietly avoids her gaze. Riem then asks her again why she used May's hand to slap her own cheek. Why would she try to disgrace the only sister she has? Whatever answer or punishment comes next isn't shown. Instead, the scene cuts to May the next day. She's buried under her blanket, crying like the world just ended. Between sobs, she wonders if it's really that hard for Riem to take her side just once. She's supposed to be his fiancée, yet the title feels like nothing more than words he says when it's convenient. Angry and hurt, May starts wondering if male leads in romance fantasy worlds are legally required to only listen to female leads. She even asks the universe why she had to be an extra. At this point, she'd rather be the villainess. She checks all the boxes anyway. Favoritism in the family, torment from a sibling, persecution by the world, and a sharp brain. She's got the full package. Then she looks in the mirror and realizes the real issue. Her face. That thought alone feels like a complete defeat. She throws a few punches into the air like she's practicing martial arts and curses to the rom fan world. If she were a regressed villainess, she'd have already dealt with fake April using her fists. That's when it hits her. Now she understands why Olivia rejected her offer before. With that realization, May straightens up and leaves her room. She finally knows how to bring Olivia and the Jasmine Club to her side. At the door, she calls for her maid and tells Daisy to rush to the kitchen. She wants cakes and refreshments for 20 people ready within 2 hours because she's inviting the ladies of the Jasmine Club to the palace. Then she turns to another servant, Philip, and tells him it's his job to make sure every single lady from that club attends. Philip nearly collapses on the spot, saying he can't handle something so important. May just smiles and tells him not to worry. All he has to do is say one magic phrase. She leans in close to Daisy and Philip and whispers what they should say if the ladies hesitate. The exact words remain a mystery, but the servants' pale expressions show they're crazy enough to cause panic. Just like May predicted, every single Jasmine Club member showed up to her tea party. She greets them all with a polite smile, the kind that looks calm but is working overtime. Once everyone settles, May wastes no time and explains why she invited them. The Empire just went through a massive purge. Corrupt nobles were wiped out, but the seats they once occupied are still empty. And May's plan is simple. She wants those positions filled by the most capable people in the Empire, which, conveniently, are sitting right in front of her. Olivia doesn't even sugarcoat her response. She says the Jasmine Club has no intention of boarding the same ship as May. Not now, not ever. May, however, doesn't look bothered. She says they'll all agree in the end, because she plans to make the deepest wish of every woman in this room come true. Besides, pretending not to know why they came would be pointless. They all heard the magic words earlier. And yes, that's when the truth comes out. The message May whispered to Philip and Daisy was simple and terrifying. There's a small gift for those who attend the tea party. If you accept the invitation, the person you fear the most will be killed for you. Olivia smirks and calls May's imagination impressive. She reminds her that everyone here is a noblewoman. Olivia herself is the eldest daughter of the Bauer family, a house older than the Empire. Her late husband was a marquis of equal standing. Countess Beauvalet owns mines producing magic stones worth more than diamonds. Lady Belle's father controls the Arbon Merchant Guild. These aren't women some random thug would dare touch. So Olivia asks the obvious question. Who would even dare threaten the Jasmine Club? That's when May calmly starts listing examples. Parents who abuse their own children. Younger sisters plotting to kill their older sisters. Husbands with dangerous jealousy issues. Older brothers draining their younger sisters' fortunes to pay off gambling debts. May smiles and says it's just basic etiquette for a cultured lady to investigate these things. Still, Olivia and the others aren't fully convinced. They start to rise, ready to leave, when May speaks again. She says she doesn't understand why they insist on taking the longest and most painful road when a safer one is right in front of them. Olivia replies coldly that it's because there's no trust between the Jasmine Club and May. They have no proven achievements, their reputations are already stained, and they don't understand why May is so obsessed with recruiting them. May answers calmly. She says she knows many accomplishments credited to others were actually meant to belong to these women. She knows how their families treated them, and judging by their reactions, she's right. In other words, her assumption is correct. Villainesses don't move for praise or sweet words. What they really want is protection. So May makes it clear this was never about reputation. What matters to her is a person's true nature. She reminds Olivia that she said it before. She can see the warmth in their hearts. And right now, she's the only one who openly believes in them. That lands harder than any flattery ever could. The tea party ends with May smiling like everything went perfectly. The moment it's over, though, her energy drops to zero. She collapses onto a nearby couch, completely drained. That's when Riem suddenly arrives. May jolts upright in shock, but as she tries to stand and walk toward him, the room spins. Her legs give out, and she slumps to the floor. Confused, she looks up and notices the maid beside her smiling far too calmly. That's when it clicks. She was poisoned. The maid pretends to help her up, but leans close and whispers that April sent a message. May shouldn't steal another person's male lead like that. So yes, in the end, it really was her fake sister behind it all. May doesn't even get the chance to curse her out, because her vision fades, and she passes out right there. After some time, the doctor finishes examining May and gives his conclusion. She was exposed to a small amount of poison, not enough to kill her, thankfully. As long as she takes the medicine he prescribed, she'll be fine. And right on cue, May opens her eyes. At first, everything feels hazy. She tries to figure out where she is and who's nearby, but her vision is still blurry. Two figures are talking at her side. She squints, focuses. One of them is Riem. That's when an idea pops into her head. This is it. The classic poison incident event. In stories like this, the heroine gets poisoned and hovers near death, and the male lead realizes his feelings in dramatic silence. It's basically romance law. And May, being May, decides there's no way she's letting this opportunity slip by. So she keeps her eyes shut and pretends to still be unconscious. When the Emperor steps closer, May is internally panicking. He isn't saying anything. He's just staring at her so intensely it feels like he could burn a hole through her face. For a second, she wonders if she's already been exposed. But no, he didn't catch her acting. Instead, Riem gently places a hand on her forehead to check her temperature. He seems relieved when he notices her fever has gone down. Unfortunately for May, the closer his face gets, the faster her heart starts racing, and her face starts heating up right along with it. Thankfully, he pulls back before she fully combusts and calls out to Gale. Riem asks for an update on the missing maid who was assisting May earlier. Gale reports that they've searched everywhere, but there's still no trace of her. Not a single clue. That's when Riem's expression darkens. The cleanup was too perfect, almost like the poisoning was planned from the start. He starts thinking about the unknown enemy who's been sending assassins after him ever since his coronation. And then a worse thought hits him. Did they add May to the list now? If so, then she's caught in all of this because of him. Riem immediately gives Gale authority to form an investigation team and use any means necessary to track down the missing maid. And that's when alarm bells start blaring in May's head. Because if the truth comes out and the fake April is exposed as the culprit, then her sister's body will be the one paying the price. There's no time to pretend anymore. May suddenly reaches out and grabs Riem's arm, stopping him. Riem immediately turns back, firing off questions about how she's feeling and whether she's in pain. But May insists she's fine. That's not why she stopped him. What she really wants is for him to cancel the order to pursue the missing maid. Riem asks why. Shaking slightly, May says that everything happened according to her own plan. She explains that she needed to stage a poisoning scene to persuade the villainesses. She admits she misjudged the timing, but insists it wasn't the maid's fault. So when Riem asks if she's saying this was all an act, May apologizes for worrying him and takes full responsibility. That's when Riem's tone drops. Cold and sharp, he asks who gave her permission to risk her life. He doesn't remember ever telling her to do something that reckless. He demands to know why she would treat her own life like it's worth nothing. Is it really that cheap? Cheap enough to gamble it over something so trivial? The room goes silent. Then, after that sudden burst of anger, Riem lets out a long sigh and sits back down. And that's when May realizes it. He's not furious, but scared. May smiles softly and thanks him for worrying about her. But she tells him it wasn't a trivial matter. Then she casually drops another observation, saying that in that short moment, she finally understood what Riem wanted from the Prime Minister all along. He wanted his acknowledgement. And as if summoned by the mention, the Prime Minister himself appears at the perfect, or worst, timing, stepping in with grim news. A new problem has just surfaced. Soon after, Riham sits at his desk, flipping through a thick stack of reports while the Prime Minister stands across from him and explains everything in detail. The first report dates back a month ago. A strange epidemic broke out in the Ratana estate, located in the central southern region of the empire. At first, it was contained there, but now it has already spread to nearby estates. Dean Chad Demish from El Rash Academy, a well-known pathology expert, was urgently dispatched and identified bedbugs as the source of the disease. He tried to set countermeasures in place. But before he could finish his work, Riham revoked his title and imprisoned him. As a result, there is still no proper solution to the epidemic. And that's not even the worst part. The next page reports that pirates have begun looting the Mastan coast, causing serious damage. That coast used to be untouchable under Admiral Karl's control. Pirates wouldn't even look in that direction. But the Emperor personally sent Admiral Karl to the gallows, and the sea immediately turned lawless. Then comes the capital. Crime rates have skyrocketed. Violent crime, which was only 8% half a year ago, has now more than doubled. Riham doesn't wait for the explanation. He says it himself. That happened because he exiled Police Commissioner Ferdy. He asks the Prime Minister if he truly believes Ferdy should have stayed in power after it was exposed that he abused his position and trampled on powerless women. The Prime Minister calmly replies that, as he said before, he has no objection to punishing corrupt nobles. The issue is that purging them all at once was an administrative mistake. The air tightens fast. Before the argument turns into a full-blown war, May steps in and tells both of them to stop. She says the problems the Prime Minister listed can be solved quickly if he just gives her a little time. She already has talented people ready to fill those empty positions. The Prime Minister looks unconvinced. He asks if 20 people can really handle problems of this scale. What does she plan to do with so few? Riham's calm cracks instantly as he snaps at the Prime Minister, but the man doesn't back down. He admits May has a sharp eye for talent. He even says her idea of employing capable daughters from noble families reminds him of the late Empress. However, the real issue remains the same: the numbers. 20 is simply not enough to manage this many crises at once, and he bluntly calls May irresponsible. That's when Riham calls him out by name, Marquise Graham, warning him to stop insulting his fiancée. He's about to go further when May speaks again. She says if the problem is manpower, then there's nothing to worry about. Her master will handle that part. Right on cue, the doors open. A small group walks in, led by someone with adorable chubby cheeks and short legs. One of them cheerfully calls out to May, announcing that she's finally here. Everyone freezes when May cheerfully calls the newcomer her master. That master turns out to be Lady Elise Richelston, Duke Cedric's only sister. A late-born child the Duke treasures more than his own life. Physically, Elise looks about 7 years old. Mentally, she's 27. On top of that, she's possessed romance fantasy characters twice before. In one of her past lives, she was even rejected by Riham and eventually returned to Earth. No one in the room knows how to react. May is standing there hyping up her master, who looks like a child straight out of a picture book, complete with dramatic sparkles for emphasis. The adults around them just stare, openly questioning reality. May, however, doesn't waver. They can doubt all they want. Soon enough, they'll see how magnificent her master truly is. And not just her, but everyone she brought along. Because in romance fantasy worlds, the smartest ones are always the villainess, and the genius baby ladies. The Prime Minister takes a moment to recover from the shock, then clears his throat and politely asks Elise how old she is. Elise, without missing a beat, says it's rude to ask a lady her age. Still, she adds that if her age makes him doubtful, he's welcome to test her any time. One of the girls jumps in too, the one with the pink hair, saying they don't need special treatment. Just give them a little time, and they'll show what they can do. Graham listens, nodding slowly, then says, "Testing can wait. Time will expose real ability anyway, so there's no rush there. What actually worries him is public reaction. How exactly are people supposed to take an official who isn't even 10 yet?" He paints the picture out loud. Tiny kids with chubby cheeks sitting at desks next to grown adults in the imperial offices, and even he sounds unsure how to process that image. That's when May calmly says there's no need to worry, because these kids won't be acting as officials at all. She admits she already set things up with Riam's approval. Turns out, she founded something called the Imperial Kindergarten. Yes, a real one. In short, all these baby ladies will enroll there instead. It's a special school for noble children between 6 and 10, and it only accepts geniuses. Riam adds to that by announcing they'll publicly say the ladies of the Jasmine Club are responsible for education at the Imperial Kindergarten. That part is mostly for show. Behind the scenes, the baby ladies and the villainesses will work together and taking on key national matters. Meanwhile, the regular officials won't even realize who's actually shaping the policies. The plan lands surprisingly well. After thinking it through, Graham admits it's solid. To everyone's relief, he approves it. May is so happy she literally jumps and rushes toward Riam, clearly about to hug him. He dodges at the last second. She freezes, panics, and immediately apologizes, explaining she was just overwhelmed with joy and didn't mean anything improper. Instead of getting upset, Riam gently pats her head, praising her for doing well. That one move completely breaks her. May turns red like a tomato, wondering if she's even allowed to think of that as romantic. Whether it is or isn't doesn't matter right now. She's just relieved everything worked out. At this point, there's only one problem left: getting that powder. A few days later, the Prime Minister goes through the newest reports and can't hide his amazement. He keeps flipping pages, impressed despite himself. The plague spread was stopped using a bedbug repellent developed by Countess Beauvalet. A cure is already in progress, led by Lady Arya Berberin from the Imperial Kindergarten. Over at the Mastina coast, the pirates completely fell apart after Lady Belle baited them into fighting each other. As for the capital, violent crime has dropped sharply, thanks to a magic anklet invented by Lady Elise herself. Even Graham has to admit it. May is delivering results everywhere. Compared to this, her predecessor's achievements barely stand out anymore. And most importantly, the Empire's finances are finally stable, stronger than they've been in years. Still, Graham can't fully wrap his head around May. She showed up out of nowhere like a comet, and now she's reshaping the entire empire. He opens a drawer and looks at the red pouch inside, murmuring to himself that he'll find his answer eventually. All he has to do is keep watching her, and see whether she's truly worthy of becoming the next empress. The scene shifts to pure chaos. 3 of the other baby ladies are loudly protesting, demanding the compensation they were promised: proper food, clothing, and guaranteed shelter. Elise snaps back at them, telling them to wait a little longer, and insisting they weren't lying. She reminds them that she's working herself to the bone too, trying to fix everything as fast as possible. May steps in to explain that there are still procedures to follow before that powder can be officially imported. Just as she finishes, Philip rushes in with bad news. The ladies of the Jasmine Club are collapsing from exhaustion. Without help from the baby ladies, they can't keep up with the workload anymore. May panics and leans toward Elise to whisper, asking what they should do now. The villainesses are at their limit, and there's no time left to stall. Elise looks serious and declares that it can't be helped anymore. They'll have to use the last resort. Across from Lorraine Street, where luxurious mansions line the road like they're showing off, there's a small bar that looks completely out of place. It's the kind of spot butlers from nearby estates quietly slip into after work. The outside is shabby, and the food, honestly, you'd question your life choices just looking at it. But none of that matters. People come here for one reason only. This bar is the secret shop of a legendary smuggler, someone who can get you anything as long as you have the money. And that's exactly why Elise and May are here today. They need a very specific product, and it has to be obtained quietly. Unfortunately, things go downhill fast. After their dramatic entrance, they don't even get a chance to explain properly. The bar owner straight up tosses them out like pests. Elise is completely stunned, standing there like she just got kicked out of her own house. Meanwhile, May is already tearing up, panicking that if this keeps up, their contract with the baby ladies is going to fall apart. Elise quickly pulls herself together and reassures May. She says those people will regret it soon enough for turning away major players in the smuggling world. She's extremely confident, proudly adding that she already has a whole list of trusted dealers in that area. May cheers her on from the side, fully believing in her. So off they go, trying one option after another. Except, every single one of them rejects them. By the end of it, Even Elise didn't expect things to go this badly. She slumps down on the floor in defeat. May, trying to stay hopeful, suggests that maybe they could renegotiate the contract instead. Elise shuts that idea down immediately. Shaking her head, she says, May doesn't understand how obsessed the baby ladies are with that powder. Just imagine angry toddlers charging like starving zombies, except there are a lot of them, and they're furious. Still, they're not completely out of options. There's one last person they can turn to, Duke Cedric. After listening to their explanation, Cedric sums it up neatly. Basically, they need to smuggle something, and Elise wants him to do it. She even says it proudly, with a big grin on her face. Cedric doesn't respond to her right away. Instead, he looks straight at May. May avoids his gaze instantly. To be fair, this was never her plan. With a sigh, Cedric says he'll agree, but there's a condition. Elise immediately throws a tantrum like a child who just got told no. Cedric doesn't budge. He says the job is too dangerous, so he and May will handle it together, while Elise stays quietly in her room. Then, Elise whispers to May, asking if she's really okay doing this alone with her brother. May answers without words, crossing her fingers hard and signaling absolutely not. Seeing that doesn't help Elise at all. She switches tactics and calls Cedric Big Brother, even adding a wink for extra effect. Unfortunately for her, it does nothing this time. Cedric's decision stands. In the end, only May and Cedric head off for the smuggling mission. Back at the palace, Riem is going through a stack of reports, and he's visibly impressed. These are reports about the officials May personally recruited, and the results speak for themselves. Reading them, he can't help but smile as he remembers how confidently May asked the Prime Minister for 1 week back then. Now it makes sense why she spoke with such certainty. But then another memory cuts in. The quiet moment when it was just the two of them talking alone, after May regained her consciousness. Riem suddenly clutches his chest, confused. Ever since that day, his heart has been acting strange. Sometimes it tightens for no clear reason. No matter what he's doing, it just hits him out of nowhere. And the most troubling part? It almost feels like he's getting used to it, like he's slowly getting addicted. On the flip side, May is now sitting inside a carriage with Cedric, and the silence between them is doing most of the talking. People say the Northern Duke hates women and has the personality of a frozen wall. So naturally, May assumes that if she opens her mouth, she might accidentally trigger her own execution. In the end, she decides silence is safer, and just sits there, stiff as a board. Then Cedric suddenly speaks, completely out of nowhere. He tells her that if she wants him to obtain that powder for her, as promised to his sister Elise, he wants one thing in return. He asks that during the entire process, there be no unnecessary social interaction between them. In short, he wants peace and quiet while he works. Before May can even process that, Cedric opens the carriage door and tells her to stay hidden inside until everything is settled. He makes it very clear. She's not to move, not to draw attention, and definitely not to cause trouble that could mess things up from the start. Then, without another word, he steps out and swings his sword straight at 2 assassins waiting nearby. From his point of view, their eyes are locked on the carriage, not on him, which means May is the target. More assassins rush in, and Cedric meets them head-on, while May watches from inside. As this unfolds, May can't help but remember what Elise once told her about what it means to be a Northern Duke. According to her very enthusiastic master, a Northern Duke is someone with the strongest swordsmanship alive, and an equally tragic level of loneliness because he has too much to protect. He sees most women as background decorations, but his woman is the one exception. Elise had gone on and on about it so dramatically that May almost lost her hearing, insisting that as long as May stayed beside Cedric, no assassin or random thug could ever touch her. All May had to do was stand there gracefully and watch the bloody mess get cleaned up. Now that it's actually happening in front of her, May realizes Elise wasn't exaggerating. Cedric is wiping out trained assassins on his own like it's routine work. But suddenly, a sneaky assassin attacks from behind and smashes the carriage window. Before May can react, the man swings his sword toward her seat. She tries to move, but he grabs her hand, making her scream Cedric's name. The assassin grabs her by the neck and starts choking her, and for a split second, everything feels like it's about to end right there. Then Cedric appears and cuts the man down instantly. May is shaken but unharmed. Unfortunately, another attacker rushes in, forcing Cedric back outside to finish his cleaning job. Left alone again, May realizes she can't just sit there anymore. What if another assassin sneaks in? She decides she needs to defend herself too. Spotting a sword stuck in the carriage, she grabs it and pulls with all her strength. It doesn't budge at first. When it finally does, she loses her balance and crashes hard onto the floor. The loud noise immediately alerts Cedric, who rushes back, fully prepared to kill yet another assassin. Instead, he finds May upside down, clutching a sword, looking more confused than threatening. He tries not to react, but when he notices the bruises on her neck and arm, he silently concludes that she is, without question, a very high-maintenance lady. May awkwardly scrambles up and apologizes for making him worry over nothing. To her surprise, Cedric kneels down in front of her, hands her shoe, and calmly tells her to be careful because the floor is covered in broken glass. Just as May reaches out to take the shoe and is about to apologize again, Cedric suddenly collapses forward and lands right on her lap. After getting him to take some medicine, May hesitantly asks if it's true, that he's so afraid of women that even being touched makes it hard for him to breathe. Cedric nods. To May, this actually makes sense. After all, in romance fantasy logic, being the Northern Duke is practically a full-time job, and considering how many heroines must have targeted him since childhood, developing a fear of women seems perfectly reasonable. She then remembers their dance at the debutante ball and asks how he managed back then. Cedric admits he drank 5 bottles of tranquilizers just to get through it. He adds that to everyone else, he must have looked ridiculous. His entire life he was taught to live rationally, make logical choices, and believe that emotions only get in the way. That was the only right way to live, but whenever it comes to Elise, all of that logic falls apart. Just hearing her laugh makes everything else feel pointless. For her sake alone, Cedric feels like he could do anything. May smiles softly and says she understands. She has someone like that too, someone precious enough that she'd risk everything just to get them back. Meanwhile, Riam is in the middle of a medical checkup, sitting across from his most trusted doctor. He complains about his heart pounding too fast, his chest feeling tight, his body running hot, and his sleep being a complete mess. Basically, his body feels like it's rebelling for no clear reason. The problem is, the doctor can't find anything wrong. No matter how many times he checks, everything looks normal. Riham is just about to insist on another round of tests when Gale suddenly barges in with an urgent report. The moment he says that May was attacked by assassins, Riham shoots up from his seat like he forgot gravity exists. He wants to know if May is hurt. Gale quickly explains that May escaped without serious injuries thanks to Duke Cedric, who volunteered to act as her escort. That one name instantly ruins Riam's mood. His expression darkens as he demands to know why that man was anywhere near his fiancée in the first place. Gale reports what intel he has gathered so far. Apparently, May and Cedric were working together to obtain some kind of powder. The exact details are unclear, but one thing is certain. It's made from the fruit of a plant that doesn't exist anywhere on the continent. That sets off alarms in Riam's head. His mind immediately jumps to poison. He recalls an incident from years ago where a baron's mistress tried to buy a powder that drove people insane so she could steal the baron's fortune. Combined with his current chest pain and strange symptoms, the timing feels a little too perfect. So, he orders Gale to secretly assign a knight to escort May at all times, and at the same time, have someone follow Duke Cedric closely and report every single move back to him. A few days later, the long-awaited day finally arrives for May. After all the stress and waiting, it's finally time to get that powder. As she checks the goods, she's relieved to see that everything went exactly as planned. For once, things are actually going right. Then Cedric senses someone nearby and admits that this part is his mistake. He realizes too late that they're surrounded. May panics, but even then, she refuses to leave without taking at least one sack. Unfortunately, the moment they step outside, they're met with a wall of elite knights. Gale is there, and so is Riham. When May innocently asks how they ended up there, Riham cuts her off sharply and says he should be the one asking questions. Specifically, why his fiancée is standing in the middle of what looks like an illegal smuggling operation. May immediately says it's all a misunderstanding. Yes, it looks suspicious, but it's not what they think. Riham isn't convinced. He calmly states that they'll figure out exactly what it is after investigating it themselves, and orders his men to confiscate all the powder, ignoring May's protests. She desperately asks if they can at least leave her one bag. Just one. She really needs it. Gale apologizes, but his answer doesn't change. Everything is taken. Inside, May is spiraling. If this gets delayed any longer, the baby ladies might really turn their backs on them. Everything she worked for could fall apart right here. Then it happens. One knight loses his grip on a sack and it goes flying straight toward May. Cedric reacts instantly, slashing it cleanly in half mid-air. The sack bursts open, and dark red powder scatters into the air. And that's when chaos erupts. Everyone starts sneezing uncontrollably. Eyes water. Noses burn. The air turns violently spicy in a way no one there has ever experienced before. Gale shouts for everyone to cover their noses, warning that it could be poison. That's when May yells out, completely panicked and offended at the same time, saying that's the one she worked so hard to get. Her chili powder. After returning, Riham immediately starts firing questions at May, one after another. So, to win over the baby ladies, May promised them a very specific kind of food they had been craving. To make that happen, she needed chili powder, the kind that doesn't exist anywhere on this continent. May explains that they managed to find substitutes for everything else, but chili powder has no replacement. So yes, they smuggled it in. Not because they wanted trouble, but because there was literally no other way. When Riham asks why she worked with Cedric of all people, May reminds him that Cedric is her master Elise's older brother. Riham goes quiet for a long moment, then coughs lightly and admits that it's a reasonable explanation. That said, he still isn't fully convinced. He tells her he'll hold his judgment until he sees the results for himself. May just smiles and says that he'll come to trust her eventually, and she's proven right almost immediately. Soon, dishes are placed in front of the baby ladies. Korean food, fully loaded with chili powder. Every single one of them starts eating like they've been starving for years. They talk over one another, arguing about which dish is the best, stuffing their cheeks without a hint of shame. The pink-haired girl even starts crying when she sees kimchi, clutching it like a long-lost treasure. No one holds back. Plates are cleared quickly and smiles are everywhere. It's obvious this worked. May turns to Riham with a proud smile and casually asks if he still doubts her now. Riham exhales, admits that he misjudged her, and says that this time he really was barking up the wrong tree. Then he goes quiet again, studying her instead. After a moment, he asks something unexpected. He says she's the most brilliant person he's ever met. Someone who understands the difference between what he needs and what he wants, yet still manages to give him both. That's exactly why he doesn't understand her. With her ability, she could easily claim the Empress's throne, maybe even take half the empire if she wanted. So why does someone like her settle for being his fake fiancé? What does May Avril actually want? May immediately remembers Elise's warning. Riham is observant, suspicious, and one day he would start questioning her very existence. Elise told her to be ready when that moment came. So May leans closer and admits that he's right. She does have another motive. Then she lowers her voice and whispers it directly into his ear. She tells him it's because she likes him. And just to make sure it doesn't sound dangerous, she adds that she means it as one of his subjects, someone who believes in him and follows his path. Riham lowers his head slightly and comments that May really has a talent for being vague. Then he turns and walks away, leaving May standing there, completely confused about what just happened. What she doesn't see is that as he leaves, Riham's ears are burning bright red,